Okay, so I totally forgot this part of the Divergent series, which is literally the most important part. So of course, like God, he makes me confirmation clock so you can hear that. He makes me make an entire different video about it. So I left out literally the most important part of the fucking Divergent series, which is all about open contact, which actually lines up to my fucking channel. So if you haven't heard of me before, I'm a psychic medium. I channel with God. I have been for 18 months. And I also now channel with, well, I have been channeling with them the whole time, but I called them my guides. They're seventh dimensional beings, which we call aliens. That's going to be open contact. That's who's coming down. It's us from the future that's coming for open contact. It's not actual like grays or anything like that. At first, at least, that's what I'm being told. Now, there's maybe later on we could have, but that's not what's most effective for our nervous systems and our brains at first. We're going to have to see people who look like humans. But anyway, it's them from the seventh dimension. So they have been seeding all these things, which they've called seeded transmissions, which are movies. It's TV shows. It's media, any type of stuff like that. Video games also is another thing that they've been telling. I never played any video games, so somebody else is the expert on the seeded transmission for the video games. I watch movies and I listen to music, so those are like my expertise as far as seeded transmissions. And I've talked about so many of them. One of the main ones is the Divergent series and how the Divergent, I've talked a lot about this, got channels about how the Divergents down here are what we call star seeds, light workers, shadow workers. We've come down here, we face a lot of oppression, a lot of injustice. We have a deep sense of justice and making things right and fair and just and equal. And that's what that entire series is about. It's this girl who, diverts away from this society that, puts people in boxes, which is exactly what we have down here. It's the exact same thing. And so one of the main things that so they overthrow the government in that movie and they're successful and they get this message from the founders, and that's how we a lot of us channels are getting messages from from channels. We're all channeling right now. That's our messages from the founders. All of us psychic channelers right now, we're all getting messages from somewhere, right? And we're sharing them openly and all that stuff. And when they go, so they think the founders are going to be this great thing. So they go to the founders and they realize they're actually corrupt. Well, so that's where you hold duality with that, because it does, it does represent, these interdimensional beings that are going to help us, but it also represents, the deletes, because the deletes are the corrupt ones, right? That we have going on right now in our society. And we realize that they're actually the ones who are behind the government. So that's what happens in that series. They realize that there's actually a bigger government that's behind the smaller government that they've lived within this entire time. That's what's happening right now. But also, that government was always watching them. This government, the founders were made this entire experiment, which represents the Anunnaki. If you've heard that story, how they have, and the seventh dimensional beings, and how they, created this society this was this grand experiment to get the divergence out, which is Christ consciousness coded. It's this is when Jesus comes down during this time, is during this dissension and ascension period, the worst parts of hell, the worst parts of heaven. I've gotten a ton of channels about that. That's what this is. That's what that movie's about. It's about Jesus, basically. I've gotten channels about how there's not just one Jesus. We're all pretty much Jesus, which is what, again, Jesus taught in the Bible, which is the craziest part of all of this. So anyway, what I've been told about the seventh dimensional beings is that they have been watching us this entire time. Not only have they been watching us, but they've been giving us these seeded transmissions, and they've been doing timeline work up there. Because in the seventh dimension, time travel, interdimensional travel, interplanetary travel, all of those things are actually telekinesis, telekinetics, teleportation, spiritual gifts, psychic abilities, all that stuff is very normalized in their society because there are 2 dimensions ahead of us. You can imagine how evolved they are as the human species, right? So they have all this grand technology, which the founders do too in that movie. They have so much more technology. And they live outside this desolation of a world, because the world got desolated. So it's really deep. This movie's really, really deep. I mean, it's like I can't explain, like when I watched this series, I was like, out of all the seeded transmissions that I have watched, this is the most accurate for not only what I've gotten channeled to me, but what is actually occurring. Because, the deletes and stuff, they've like basically like ruined our planet and stuff. And actually they kind of show us our alternative timeline in that movie. They show us that's what it would have been. Like, it's very, I can't, like, again, explain, like, how accurate it actually is. Like, it is insane especially, and I've watched this series before. I've always resonated with it, but I didn't have this psychic information. So I was guided to rewatch it, and a bunch of other seeded transmissions, tons of them. Stargate, The Phenomenon, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Powder, Highlander. I've been watching all these movies because I've been trying to take a break from this shit because I'm just like over it because sometimes that's why I talk about people. This isn't easy stuff, right? This is kind of hard sometimes to like get on board with. It's like a lot, obviously. And that's why they give us these movies. This is how they got the truth out, because you can see that the truth is deeply suppressed. They are coming after the truth tellers here on TikTok. They are having a controlled narrative about open contact. They are, taking certain people out of this reality that are trying to tell truth. They've suppressed massive amounts of information. They, are promoting certain types of information. And so that's where it's like, if you have pattern recognition, you're a starseed. If you even understand what I'm saying, you are a light worker. This is you guys. You are ascended masters. I'm going to keep talking about this because I keep getting this channel to me that we are all ascended. We're in ascended master school right here, right now. Everybody is included. It's just like where you're at on the awakening path specifically. But everybody is going to learn from us. We are ascended masters. I know. Bashar has been predicting this, by the way. He's been predicting that the hybrid souls are gonna like reveal themselves at some point. It's us guys. It's like it's us light workers. We are all hybridized, actually. Now, the star seeds, us neurodivergents, are that's why they make a big stink about it in that movie, the neurodivergents, because we are seeded with our other planetary souls. Other people here who are not awake are seated with their parallel dimensional souls, but only of Earth, because they do not have experience in the galaxy other than this planet, which is why they give us so much pushback about our dimensional information, our extra dimensional information, because they, in their entire soul journey so far, it's only been on Earth, and nobody has ever introduced them to these types of concepts because they're not ascended masters yet, but they're going to be. And I've been told about how this was like same thing with Yeshua's time. We're the same ones from Yeshua's time. And we do this. This is like what we have, a contract with Earth. We have, that's why a lot of us get past life stuff from Atlantis and Lemuria, which were things here on Earth. We get, a lot of us get that stuff because we've been doing this shit, guys. And we do this in the 7th dimension too. That's why I'm like, if you channel at all, you are channeling with your higher self from the 7th dimension. And what they're doing up there is they're working with these time machines. And they have to come back in time, and they see whoopsie daisies. Oops, we have to like give these people this technology because we have to, because their reality starts to collapse and get, so it's like what they give me is Inception, that movie, how the buildings start to collapse and shit. And then Interstellar is also a seeded transmission for this time. Again, parallel dimensional lives and the Tesseract, that goes towards Project Looking Glass. There is so much, guys. That's what I'm saying. If you can see the patterns, like they're there. So back to Divergent, the founders were watching everybody, the whole time. So that's the 7th dimensional beings. They've been watching us, seeding our realities, and doing all this timeline work because they accidentally fucked it up on accident. And because they come back in time and they realize that they had to give the technology to the deletes in order to seed our realities to get us to the future. But then they realize they have to allow all this bad stuff to go on for 100 years, because that's how long it takes for our brains and our nervous systems to get to feel safe and comfortable, shifting the paradigms of our reality and shifting dimensions. It takes a long time because we're like these mammalian, beings that have biology, nervous systems, brains, neural pathways, all this stuff, which is our reptilian brains, by the way. So anyway, it's insane. It's literally, I'm like, that is literally the channels I got. And then that's that entire movie. So I'm like beyond a shadow of doubt now. I'm like, I'm beyond a shadow of doubt. I know what I'm talking about and I'm accurate. So I'm stoked. This is great.